Hello, and welcome to Reduce Ticket Volumes by Empowering Service Desk Teams with AI Assistance. Today's webinar is sponsored by Zscaler and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss some of your top questions in greater detail. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues that you might be experiencing. Now, a browser refresh will fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, the next section I'd like to draw your attention to is the handout section, and you'll find that we're offering several resources. So Zscaler has a great selection of PDFs in there for you. There are 4 of them, and they are delivering fast and secure digital experiences for the modern hybrid workforce, calculating the financial value of Zscaler digital experience, leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning with Zscaler Digital Experience, and Zscaler Digital Experience data sheet. So a lot of great resources in there. I'd recommend grabbing some of them now. The events end faster than you expect, and suddenly the handouts option is gone. Third, at the end of this webinar event, we'll be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. Official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section as well. You just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions links down there. Now, finally, one of the best benefits of this event is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenter. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card, this one for $50 for the best question. After the event is over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. Okay, with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's get to today's great presentation. And I'm delighted to introduce our speaker today. We have Rohit Goyal. Rohit is Director of Product Marketing at Zscaler. Rohit, great to have you here. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks for the great intro. And we have a packed agenda, so I'm going to get right into it. Today, we're going to be talking about reducing ticket volumes by empowering service desk teams with AI assistance. I know it's a lot, but we're trying to make it a lot easier for you to leverage AI, especially when you're thinking about ticket volumes. So to set a little bit of context, the data center and applications that reside in the data center and all the data that you have within there, they're actually starting to move and shift and disperse. A lot of folks are used to different types of SaaS applications, and the ones that we kind of run into on day-to-day are things like Microsoft Office, Teams, Zoom, Webex. These are all different types of SaaS applications, and they're all running outside your data center. And in conjunction, employees have been dispersed. We've seen that through the pandemic, and it continues to be the case where employees are working, remotely, and they're connecting in, leveraging those SaaS applications, or they're connecting in, leveraging those private applications. But this creates a lot of complexity. And to make matters worse, a lot of teams have point monitoring solutions. So that leaves challenges, especially when you're thinking about cloud security. It causes blind spots when you're using your existing monitoring solutions. You have to manually correlate from multiple point solutions, meaning devices, networks, and applications all have their different types of monitoring solutions. And you have to manually correlate to find out what's going on when a user calls in with an issue. And what it does is it makes you reactive versus proactive. Instead of getting out there and being a little bit more proactive, you're having to firefight when users call in with these challenges. And it's really tedious. What ends up happening is you have a lot of different agents on a user's desktop, and the user, gets frustrated because there's a lot that has to go into maintaining those agents. And when you have multiple monitoring solutions, the real challenge is it causes a lot of alert fatigue, meaning you're going to get alerts from all different points of view, from the end user to the network to the application. And since it doesn't correlate any of that information, it's going to be challenging for you to decipher. So what we've done here at Zscaler is we've unified the monitoring silos. So all those silos that we're talking about, from the device, network, and app, we're unifying it all into a user experience score. And that user experience score basically highlights a baseline of how that user's performance is overall. And it tells you in a very easy to understand green, yellow, and red score as to how the user experience is overall. And what we do on top of that is we pipe in Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Webex information into it. So that gives you an idea as to all the different telemetry points that we're collecting to help you identify where the user is having an issue. But looking at all of this data could be challenging. So we do have some really amazing AI capabilities, and we'll dive into that to help you get into what the issue is for the user. So this will help you proactively monitor and optimize your users' performance before they're impacted. You can actually start to see, whether their experience is poor, and you can get proactive about it. You can quickly troubleshoot across every device, the network, and the app, and you can quickly identify what's going on. So how do you reduce IT ticket volumes with AI? So let's think about like an incident and the life cycle. Typically, a user calls in and says, "Oh, my computer is running slow." What's the next step? They report it to IT support and the help desk. And all websites, or is it certain websites? Is it the Zoom call? So those are typical questions support will ask. And then they'll ask them to try to do some basic troubleshooting. Turn it on, turn it off, move closer to your router. Is it an issue with the person not actually seeing what's happening on the desktop? Then they pass it on and say, okay, well, it looks like it could be a network problem. It's always a network problem. So pass it on to the network team. And that's where you start to have these routing challenges. So the network team looks at it and says, no, everything looks okay. Maybe it's an application or a security issue. So then that gets routed to the next team. And the security team responds and says, oh, security policy looks correct. Then it gets routed to the application team. And by then, now you're facing it over days. And the application team finally is able to dive in and figure out that it's an application problem. And they have to contact the app provider to resolve the issue. But think about all the steps and all the handoffs that we just created, and all the end user frustration that happens along the process. So let's do a quick poll here to try to understand, your organization. Which of these is the most common root cause of user complaints in your organization? Pick one. We'll wait here. You could have employee Wi-Fi issues, ISP or corporate, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or Webex. Slow device performance, meaning processors, memory, or CPU. All right, great. Thank you for that. As we start to see, employee Wi-Fi and slow device performance and Teams are definitely key highlights. So let's see how AI can help with this. Let's talk about the first step. So Zscaler Digital Experience has a capability called self-service. And what it does is it basically is an AI agent, a lightweight AI agent that sits on your endpoint device. And here what we're seeing is a Mac screen with an endpoint device. And it's saying, oh, looks like you're having a Wi-Fi issue. And it's telling you that your Wi-Fi is a low signal. So the end user gets ideas to what the challenge is, and they don't have to open up a ticket because they know it's something between them and their local Wi-Fi. It has nothing to do with, the upstream network or the application. So the goal here is to reduce the tickets from even being created in the first place. In terms of the next solution, the next part of the solution is faster triaging with AI-powered automated root cause analysis. I know that's a lot to take in, but think about this for a second. So imagine you're getting information from the device, network, and application, and somebody calls in and says, "Oh, I've got trouble with the slowness on my computer." Imagine that you can actually hit one button that says Analyze Score. Remember the user experience score we talked about? You can hit that one button when they're having a poor experience, and it can tell you exactly what the issue is. In this case, it's saying backhaul traffic is experiencing a high client egress latency. And this is perfect for those L3 teams, right, to get into the network. Let's take a look at step 3. You can route tickets with secure and shareable insights and diagnostics. And the idea here is that you've done some work, right? So imagine that you've looked at the Zscaler dashboard and you've noticed where the issue is. You hit that AI root cause analysis button, and it showed you the user details page of the user experience. Well, we don't want the L3 team to have to go through and do this all manually again. What you can do is you can click a share button, and you can actually share those insights with the team, so they can actually reduce the amount of time they're spending in triaging. The great part about this is how we can think about this holistically. So let's take that example again. Okay, the user calls in and says, "My computer is running slow." Well, what happens here with the Zscaler digital experience solution? First, we look at the self-service capability. Is the user having an issue locally between their laptop and their Wi-Fi? They'll get notified if it is. Maybe the issue gets resolved right there. If they continue to have trouble, they call into the support desk. And the next step here is to use the AI-powered root cause analysis. And here we can say, "Oh, well, we see that you're having a high app response time. Let's share the ZDX snapshot with the L3 team so that they can quickly troubleshoot." The application team reviews the response time and confirms it's a SaaS app issue. Great. Now the issue is resolved. So you can go from those days down to minutes. So you can reduce that L1 and L2 in specific teams, support labor, issues that cause a lot of tickets. You can enable L1 teams to highlight root cause and reduce the challenges for L2 and L3 teams. You can pinpoint issues faster to dispatch the correct team. As you see in this flow, we're not bouncing around with multiple teams. We've identified the correct team and we've resolved that user issue very quickly. So let's hear from one of our transformational customers, Molson Coors, about how they've implemented Zscaler, the technology overall, plus ZDX.
Molson Coors is obviously a beverage company. We have about 17,000 employees, over 42 breweries in different jurisdictions around the world. Middle of the pandemic, a lot of remote workers. We're still relying on traditional VPN. From my perspective as a security professional, I'm looking at it from an attacker perspective. That same user may have downloaded some malware. They've infected their PC. From that infected PC with a VPN, they can connect to pretty much anything. That creates that flat network environment and a wide attack surface for us. We did have a fairly significant breach last year in 2021. We didn't have that protection from the endpoint. We needed connectivity from anybody, anywhere. And while VPN can do that technically in certain ways, but it doesn't do so in a secure way. The last 2 years has been a great transformation with our CIO to get rid of a lot of that legacy equipment. It's great for me as the CISO to get rid of some of the vulnerabilities you have with legacy stuff. getting ourselves prepared for a modern zero trust future without a bunch of heavy weight to have to like carry with us. We use currently Zscaler Internet Access for is we engage with many other businesses. As we've created other companies or we make ventures into other companies, look at our joint venture with a new company to help distribute Yingling across the world using our supply chain. We're providing services. Well, we have to do so in a secure way, keeping them separate from Molson Coors. Zscaler has actually helped us do that through Zscaler Internet Access to help us protect a separate cohort of users while still not really changing how our security team understands tools to work. All 17,000 employees are currently using ZDX. When our average consumer, average user has an application issue and they call the service desk and it's a connectivity issue. So I look at ZDX as first as let's know where the problem is. Right, so it's not Zscaler, it's your ISP, it's you're too close to the pool, it's the whatever the reason is, or maybe it's an application issue. And being able to decipher that very quickly, I think is a good experience for the user. So mean time to resolution obviously changes. It's averaged out between different incidents, but we were in a case of hours, like 8 hours in some cases to reduce to actually understand what's going on and respond to that incident. We're down now to about 15 minutes. So for us, that was a huge reduction. So that's when we got all 17,000 employees onto the ZDX advanced capability for us to put a couple of monitors out there to see where these issues were. And we could figure out there was some file server slowness and how we had architected our internal network and how it was connecting with Zscaler. I was really happy to see how they approached our challenge, solved our challenge, and still have the case for future business. So it creates a relationship, and I really appreciate that. So we have quite a bit of reduced incidents. We do have a better mean time to resolution than what we had prior the year before. It plays an important part in being able to track down what asset it was, where the issue was, what they connected to, allows us to say, from an incident perspective, whether we should be really concerned or not, right? Because whether the traffic went out, we have to just reset a password, or we have to reset a PC. So from that perspective, I think we actually have reduced, I'd have to double check on some numbers, but we have reduced the number of PC full wipes that we'd have to do to quite a bit of, very, very few of those to deal with that. It just works, right? They plug in, it works. When the inevitable bad thing happens and that endpoint gets compromised, my entire environment is no longer exposed. They can attack some applications, but they have to be very noisy in doing so. They can't just scan my network or go pivot to some other computer. So that attack surface reduction from the usual asset that gets compromised, the average user, that's kind of really, really reduced and gives us the opportunity to quarantine and respond to the incident when it's only one PC and not an entire network. Previous solution couldn't really address a zero trust architecture because it wasn't really doing any of the zero trust things, right? It was just assuming that once you had authentication that you could just get access to everything. So it was implicitly trusting, which is literally against what zero trust means, right? We want to make sure we can inspect why and what you're doing. Say how many threats were blocked from Zscaler alone. It's always in the hundreds of thousands or millions, depending on the day. It's simple, easy to use. You can train on it right away. There's no limitations for bringing that onto the rest of the world and where you're going from a cloud with workload to workload segmentation and the OT networks and some of those other capabilities. When it comes to protecting an end user and giving them secure access to the internet, ZIA and ZPA, along with that ZDX component, is it's a game changer.
Great. Hopefully that was pretty informative. You can see that Molson Coors was able to, narrow down troubleshooting from 8 hours down to 15 minutes. That's a drastic change, especially when they're using Zscaler Digital Experience. So let's talk about, a scenario here where you've got a CISO traveling to Australia. They're using Microsoft Teams. They're having some trouble. Looks like, they've got some Teams call quality issues. So you look at it overall and you start to say, okay, well, how many people are actually impacted? Well, in this scenario, there's not that many people that are impacted. So it looks like maybe this is localized, to the end user. So you check out the device health. You can look at the CPU, memory, disk I/O, network, bandwidth, processes, all from the user's detail page. And you can go into, and it all looks great. So you look into the meeting session and you start to notice that there's some audio issues, video and sharing, and it's all centered around latency and it's impacting the MOS score. And MOS score typically just means, that they're having bad, audio, video, or sharing issues. So here, what you could do is you could actually drill in and you can look at the entire path the end user is taking. And we highlight exactly where the issue is. It happens to be between the hotel gateway and the ISP. Great. Well, let's see what we can do with that. You can actually take that and pass that to the L3 team to diagnose. So there are a lot of steps here where you could go through manually, but we're still correlating everything. And instead, you could actually hit the AI-powered root cause analysis button, and you can find out that there's high latency detected between that gateway and egress. And we give you a confidence rating of 94%. Now you don't have to manually go through all that, and you can actually take that information and share it with your L3 teams. So we've got some other amazing capabilities around proactive ticket resolution. So we've added a recent capability here to look at issues, things like Wi-Fi or last mile ISP. So imagine you want to take a broader look at the entire environment. You want to see if there's Wi-Fi issues across the globe. You can actually choose Wi-Fi here at the top, and then you can drill in and you can start to see who's impacted. Same with last mile ISP. You can look at Zscaler data centers and see if there's any issues there. And the idea is that now you can be a lot more proactive to be able to identify any of these issues. So let's take a step back and think about this holistically. You're an L1, support person, and you've got to manage devices, apps, and networks, and you've got tickets coming in from all sorts of different angles, especially across all the different types of vectors. So you're able to resolve a few as they come in. But as you think about a 10,000 person organization, it's going to stretch you, right? And it could get really, really hard to troubleshoot. So what we do here is we say, let's use that self-service capability. Maybe some of these tickets aren't even created in the first place because the user is notified that they're having an issue between their Wi-Fi and their device. The second part is that proactive resolution with the incident dashboard. We're looking at everything holistically and saying, hey, there's a Wi-Fi issue or there's a last mile ISP issue, and we can start to resolve these before they're even opened. And if they reach you, great. Well, we've got this AI-powered root cause analysis to help you troubleshoot and get to that resolution very quickly. So one of the things that we get asked a lot about is integrations, especially with ITSM solutions like ServiceNow. So what we've got is we've got some great ways to feed in data into ServiceNow. We've got integrations so you can reduce switching between monitoring tools, and you can gain the insights right into the ServiceNow platform. So you can do things where you're creating a lot more collaboration between your L3 teams and yourself. You can also do things around deep trace analysis. And that's another feature. So if you really want to dive even deeper and the L3 teams are asking for a lot more insights, you can kick those capabilities off right from the ServiceNow interface. So for example, imagine you use that AI-powered root cause analysis and it said there was a high DNS. You can actually see that detail in the ServiceNow interface. So you don't have to bounce around to use another dashboard. Here's just an example of what it would look like within ServiceNow. We've got an app where you can actually download it right from ServiceNow, and you can get that integration going. So the idea is that we're simplifying troubleshooting, and we've thought through this kind of hard. And one of the challenges we've heard about is these alerts. If there's too many alerts, it creates a lot of noise. And we want to provide a lot more insights when we do send out alerts. So configuring them is challenging. So what we've done is we've created intelligent alerts based on deviations in observed metrics. So here we trigger alerts based on fixed and dynamic criteria. So it basically adapts based on baselines that are normal. And over time, it accurately detects anomalies. So this is a lot easier to get going and a lot easier to maintain as you go along. And you only get alerted based on anomalies, which is great. And we've enhanced, our capability by ingesting software inventory and device inventory into our dashboard. So think about if you need to dive deeper into, what type of operating system, what type of device hardware that the end user is using, you get all that information right from Zscaler Digital Experience. You don't have to go and ask those basic questions to the end user. We've also integrated CPU, memory, disk I/O, Wi-Fi. All those details are built in, and we're able to pull in top 50 processes. So imagine that, Chrome, for example, is taking a lot of CPU power away from the end user. It's causing slowness overall. With Zscaler Digital Experience, you can actually look into the top 50 processes and you can narrow down which one is having an issue, and you can report that back to the end user. So maybe you can actually, solve the issue without having to escalate. We've got integration with Microsoft. So there's a lot of information Microsoft captures, and we can pull that information in for boot time, responsive desktop time, crash stats, focus time. All that detail is all within that same user details page for that end user. We pull all of that detail in. So the overall goal here is to close tickets faster with fewer escalations and lower costs. We want to minimize business disruptions due to poor app or service experience. And the only way to do that is if you start to think about how AI you can leverage AI to be an assistance for you. Thinking about Zscaler overall, we've got a lot of offerings, and you heard Molson Coors talk about some of those offerings. Today we focus mainly on Zscaler for Users, which focused a lot around the digital experience offering, but we've got a lot more in terms of workloads, IoT and OT. We've got B2B. We've got a lot in terms of security. So we provide a holistic solution around zero trust exchange, and that we'll save for another webinar. But the idea here is that we really focused a lot around the digital experience offering today. And we wanted to make sure you understand how to unify those monitoring silos from moving away from point solutions, so you can correlate all that information quickly and you can optimize productivity for IT and end users, so you can continuously improve end user experience. And think about how the end user doesn't have to see multiple agents on their endpoint device, and maybe the agent is actually intelligent and it'll tell them, hey, you have a Wi-Fi issue, maybe you should move closer to your Wi-Fi router. Now that's pretty awesome. So take a moment, think about this, and sign up for a demo. You can learn a lot more about Zscaler Digital Experience right from our website, zscaler.com/ZDX. With that, I'm going to jump into the Q&A. Back to you, Scott.
All right, super. Yeah, great presentation, Rohit. And we do have a few questions here. Let's see, the first one, they're wondering, how hard is it to implement AI assistance to help service desk teams?
Yeah, so it's actually really easy. We spent a lot of time over the last few years collecting a lot of different telemetry points across the board from the device, network, and application. And we feed it all into that user experience core. And for you to just basically hit one button and enable it and get the insights, it's very quick and easy. And you can do it on a per user basis. So you can actually, get AI assistance for that user. So you can dive in and maybe solve the issue for the user without having to escalate. And if you do have to escalate, know that you're going to escalate to the right team so that the user doesn't get passed on to multiple teams.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, great. Another one here. This is somebody with dashboards for devices and networks and applications. And they're wondering, how does Zscaler Digital Experience solve the issue of looking at multiple dashboards?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with Zscaler Digital Experience, you don't have to look at multiple dashboards. You have an option to be able to look at one single user detail page, and you can actually see everything about the device. You can see the network, the entire path from the endpoint device through the Wi-Fi, all the hops up to the application. You can also see, everything in terms of the application itself, response times from the application. And you, again, keep in mind that AI powered root cause analysis, because it'll look at all that holistically and analyze all of it for you.
Very cool. All right, great. There's a question they're wondering, will ZDX integrate into our existing workflows?
Yeah, so we did show some of the capabilities through ServiceNow. A lot of our customers have asked about integrations with ITSM tools. We've got webhooks and APIs to be able to integrate into other solutions as well. But Zscaler Digital Experience is great for helping you rapidly resolve those issues, and then working with those ITSM workflows that you might already have today, integrating with them so that you can, empower, service desk teams so that they can either troubleshoot and resolve issues on their own, or they can actually pass the detailed, analysis up to the L3 teams.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And just a reminder, maybe news for some of you who might have dropped in late. There is a $50 best question prize that's up for grabs. So if you've got a question that's sort of on your mind, maybe that'll be the thing to nudge you into asking it. Also want to remind everybody about the 4 PDFs from Zscaler in the handout section while there's still time to download them. Rohit, we've got some questions here from Paul. Paul's wondering, can AI also assist in improving signal quality / reliability when engaging with customers over mic or video, or automate an LLM chatbot CX engagement if signal quality can't be improved?
Yeah, so our AI engine basically, it runs locally on the endpoint device, and it'll take a look at, the Wi-Fi signal strength. It'll take a look at the channel that you're on, and it'll provide you insights it'll provide the end user insights as to what's happening, and it'll give them potential remediation options. As we think about further developing this, we can get into some of the interesting ideas that you've mentioned.
Excellent. Another question here from Israel is wondering, can the AI provide different user experiences based on roles? As clarification, saying, provide access to certain information based on certain access levels.
So the idea with the AI piece is that we're basically just identifying a root cause of a potential issue. So based on your role within the organization, especially imagine if you're using this within ServiceNow and you have access, you could limit their access to getting into Zscaler Digital Experience and keep them within the ServiceNow interface. So there's lots of different ways to kind of carve it up.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Another question here. My service analyst team isn't deep into networking or troubleshooting desktops. Can ZDX help with that?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. So what we've done is we've streamlined everything in terms of keeping all that information in an intuitive dashboard. That's one. The second part is we understand that service desk teams are challenged with being experts in either troubleshooting a device, network, or application. So you have the AI capabilities, the ones that we covered today, especially that root cause analysis, because sifting through all of that will take time and understanding. But if you hit that one button and it tells you what the issue is, you can correlate that to the right L3 team. So if it tells you it's an app issue, you can pass it to them. If it's a network issue, you can pass it over to them. And the idea is to, reduce the amount of time that ticket is open.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, Rohit, this has been really informative, great presentation, and appreciate the customer video and all your insights here in the Q&A. You did point to a few resources, but just quickly again before we wrap up, if people want to get started, what do you recommend?
Yeah, sign up for a demo. We've got a demo request form right on zscaler.com/zdx, and we've got a ton of information there. We've got videos as well, so take a moment to learn about all that we offer around ZDX, and you'll be very happy you did.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and we pop back up that slide that has that URL, zscaler.com/ZDX. Rohit, thank you so much for being here. Really, really great talking to you and hearing from you.
Thank you.
All right, and now it's time for one more piece of business, and that is the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And so the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card today is Phil Milhorn from Texas. So congratulations to Phil Milhorn. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Zscaler for making this event possible. And thanks as always for attending and for your great questions. That's going to conclude today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day.